and there's pizza with fresh tomato on it, and I pick up a slice,
Pause. Tomato?
Tomato,
You thought I was
Heather.
just going to let that slide by and not mention anything about your tomato? It's the Heather and Ryan Show. Oh, I was going to say it's the Heather and Squidward Show. It's the Heather and Squidward Show. Yeah! Welcome to another episode. For everyone that's been following along, I am going to try to have no technical issues with this episode. There have been technical issues with the last two, which I did fix. So if anybody was like, why is there a 1.5-minute blank space? Or, why did they sound like they're underwater? Those problems are now fixed for our first 2 rounds of Karen that we did. So go ahead and, as long as you're using Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, other podcast apps may or may not have updated yet, so I don't know. But let's get into the game. We are going to play Stupid Deaths. Here's how it works. I have a set of cards. On each card is the name of a historical figure, along with a description of how that person may or may not have actually died. I will read the card aloud, and then Ryan and I will team up and decide whether or not we think the described death is true or false. If we get it right, we get a point. If we don't get it right, the game gets a point. Whoever gets the most points wins the ever-coveted Gloating Rights Trophy.
Until we play again.
All right, are you ready for this first card, Ryan?
I am.
Fleming Thompson, born 1910, died 1958. True or false? Thompson was well known in the industry for his annual script burning event, in which unworthy submissions were disposed of by bonfire. Drunk on his own self-importance, Thompson tripped and fell into the blazing pile of screenplays, meeting the same fate as the scripts he detested. What are we thinking?
I want to say it's true. I just want to believe that that's true.
I do. I want to believe it's true, but in my heart, I feel like it's false. What do you think?
Well, it's one of those stories that sounds false.
It does sound false.
It sounds so false that it's actually true.
So you want to go with true on this one?
Yes.
Okay, Ryan? I will defer to true, but if we get this wrong, then we have to defer to my answer on the next one.
Fair.
Okay. Did Fleming Thompson die by burning to death in a pile of burning scripts?
True.
No, he did not. That is super false.
I followed the heart, Heather. That was my first mistake.
And look where it got you, yeah. Stop being so emotional. No, I'm kidding. All right. Ready?
Yes.
Bill Haley. Born 1925, died 1981. True or false? Bill Haley and his Comets were a 1950s rock and roll band whose biggest hit single was Rock Around the Clock. Ironically, he and saxophone player Rudy Pompili were killed by a large clock that fell on them at the Pittsburgh Union Station while on tour. Ryan, is your heart telling you that it's true again? Is that what's happening right now?
I was hoping you were going to say it was true because I was like, that has to be false.
I think that's really super false. I just think it's so false, like we're not even going to debate it. Ready?
It's probably true. Let's go.
Did Bill Haley die by having a large clock fall on his head? No, he did not. Ryan, that's 1 point for us and 1 point for the deck of cards.
Nice.
So far. And I just saw the answer on the next one, so we'll skip that one. Oh, okay. This is a famous person I'm pretty sure you've heard of. I have no idea how he died, so let's see here. James Dean.
Ooh.
Born 1931, died 1955. True or false? It is well known that James Dean died in his convertible car, but that's not the whole story. James had been in his car, but was actually struck by a falling palm tree, killing him instantly where he sat. I do want to say false, because this sounds familiar. I believe he did die in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it was because a palm tree fell on him.
I think that would be a really well-known fact if it was. I'm going with false.
I think so. Okay, we're going false. Did James Dean die in his car when a palm tree fell on him? No, he did not. We nailed that one. Okay, Grace McHugh. Born 1989, died 1914. True or false? While filming a scene on the Arkansas River in Cannon City, Colorado, actress McHugh's boat capsized. A camera operator immediately jumped into the river to save her and dragged her onto a sandbar that was actually quicksand. The crew watched helplessly as the two were sucked into the sandbar and drowned. Ryan?
I feel like you've read this card to us already when we did the teams. It does feel
familiar. Well, you know what? I actually went and I listened to that episode again and I took out all the cards.
Oh, you did?
That were from that episode.
Okay.
So we have not actually heard this one.
Okay.
My gut is telling me false. Statistical probability is telling me true.
But
because
can you really drown in quicksand? I thought quicksand, that was just like a Hollywood dramatization. You nailed it.
What? Say it one more time. I didn't quite get that.
Dramatization?
That's all, folks. I get what you're saying.
Hollywood dramatization of quicksand, is it not?
My understanding is that that quicksand it's hard to float in.
Right.
I think. And I think if you struggle in it, you do sink in quicksand.
Right, but
that's my understanding.
I feel like the drowning in quicksand is a myth. Like, yes, if you struggle, you sink further and the harder it is to get out. But I don't think you can actually drown in quicksand. Like, I think you can get super stuck and not get yourself out and then die by drowning, let's say if you're on the coast, or like animals, the heat, the cold. Well, I guess it wouldn't work in the cold. There probably wouldn't be any quicksand in the cold. But
I don't know.
I think that, I forget what that's called. Environmental reason? Doesn't matter. Anyway, I think you die by other means when you get stuck in quicksand than the quicksand actually killing you. So I want to say false.
So what do we do? Because I want to say true.
Well, we go with you this time. Because last time we went with me, that took us to the wrong answer.
Ryan, I feel immense pressure. I feel like it's going to say false now that I really want to say it's true. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
We're going to go with true. Did Grace McHugh die by drowning in quicksand? She did. That is a true story. 3 for us. We already beat the deck of cards, but let's do one more to make it an even 5.
Now I have to research quicksand.
Well, I tell you what, Ryan. I am just pleased that we have beat an inanimate object at a game, because I was not going to know what to do with us if we were going to lose to a pack of cards.
Would you like to know what my automatic Google search was suggested to me when I put in is drowning in quicksand a jest?
Interesting phrasing.
They must have gotten trapped in the quicksand and then drowned in the tide.
That could very well be, because they thought it was a sandbar.
Yes.
So they couldn't move out of the quicksand. But we will find out for sure.
Okay.
Ryan, Adolf Adi Dassler. Born 1900, died 1978. True or false? As the founder of the German giant Adidas, Adolf loved nothing more than testing his products in the great outdoors. Embarking on an overnight cross-country skiing trip, Dassler lost his bearings, fell into a ravine, and froze to death. I am again leaning toward true.
That sounds true.
Well, it does, except he would have been 78. 77, 78 at the time. Would a 78-year-old embark on an overnight ski trip?
Well, didn't like an 80-year-old woman swim across the ocean from Cuba to Florida?
So you're just calling me ageist?
I'm just saying old people have been known to do incredible things.
It's true, Ryan. It's true. I don't know anything about this man.
Are you going to vote true out of guilt?
Yes. I do know that Adidas is actually pronounced Adidas.
Yes.
But Americans
Adidas.
don't like to pronounce it that way. All right, Ryan, do you want to say true or false?
You know, Adidas rolls off the tongue better when you say it like someone from the UK. Like, have you ever heard?
Adidas.
Yeah, like, I remember, what was his name? Clayton? It was Clayton and his younger brother. Yeah. I remember Clayton saying Adidas one time, and I was like, the fuck did you just say? And then he's like, it's Adidas. And then I was like, oh. And I just thought that was like the UK pronunciation at the time. So I learned that was the actual pronunciation.
That is the actual pronunciation. But even in Adidas commercials in the US, they pronounce it Adidas.
Yes.
Because Americans will be like, what's Adidas? Probably. It's one of those British pronunciations that when I first heard it, I highly disliked it. But now I've gotten used to it and I kind of like it now.
Mm-hmm.
But do we think that he froze to death on an overnight ski trip, Ryan?
Overnight ski trip.
Mm-hmm. Overnight cross-country skiing trip.
I mean, he was 78, so he could have been senile.
You'd think they'd take better care of him than to let him go on an overnight cross-country ski trip in that circumstance. 1978. Maybe not.
Yeah.
They just let senile people roam the streets back then.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Okay, Adolf, you have a good time now.
Have fun, Grandpa. Ryan, my gut is telling me false. Do we want to go with true or false? We're going to lean on your choice this time.
You know what? No, we're not. We're going to lean on your choice this time, Heather, because you have gotten 2 right where I voted the other way. So, this is on you.
Did Adolf Adi Dassler die by freezing to death on an overnight cross-country ski trip? He did not. He did not die that way.
Good job, Heather.
4 points for us.
You're
1 for the stupid deck of cards.
If we were versing each other, I'd be losing.
That's true. I don't know why I decided to do it this way. That's kind of making me regret it. But, Ryan, it is time for stories from the internet.
Ooh, I also have a story from me.
I would rather hear your story first.
Okay, but it doesn't relate to anything that was in the game. It was just a story I was excited to tell you about.
Then fucking forget it. No stories for you. Go ahead, bro.
So, our department at work had a pizza party. My goodness, I cannot talk tonight.
Me neither. Just go for it. You
Had
got
a
this.
pizza party for our department. It's not really a pizza party, but like they go over like the finances and they kind of keep us on the loop of the ins and outs of what's going on with the company, jobs coming up, yada yada yada. So we sit down for pizza, and before the pizza was served, we were all gathering in this restaurant, and I happened to be sitting off to the side with a fellow employee, and this guy comes up to us, and he gets right up to our faces, and he was like, "Who the fuck hired that guy over there?" And me and the guy's Rob, his name's Rob, we kind of look over and see like a random dude over there, and we're just like, I don't know, like, he's new? He's like, yeah, I know he's new. He just got hired. Who the fuck hired him? That guy's a piece of shit. I hate him. And he goes off on like how much he hates this guy, right? So we're like, damn, dude, that's crazy. So he like wanders off. Pizza comes out, and I go up. I'm standing in line, and there's pizza with fresh tomato on it, and I pick up a slice, and
Pause. Tomato?
Tomato,
You thought
Heather.
I was just gonna let that slide by and not mention anything about your tomato? Please, Continue, good sir, with your story.
Oh, I will, indeed. As I picked up the slice of pizza off the fucking plate, the box of pizza, which was going onto my plate, the tomato flopped off in a floppy fashion onto the pizza box.
Uh-huh.
As I reached my hand towards the tomato to grab it and put it back onto my slice of pizza, a spatula out of nowhere comes and scoops it up for me. And I think, oh, what a nice chap. He's going to put it right back onto my pizza slice for me. And he puts the slice of tomato on his own pizza, after having witnessed me drop it from my slice into the box, which obviously was not intentional by any means at all.
You're giving me a heart attack over here. Please continue.
And I looked to see who the culprit was who was just stolen my slice of tomato. And it was the fucker he was talking about before. And I thought, this guy really is a piece of shit.
I feel like that's how you need to tell every story from now on. And somehow tomatoes got to make it into every one of them somehow. Good Lord. Oh my God, what was I about to do before that? Stories from the internet that aren't as good as that story. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, I have to cough. Hold on. Okay. So, these stories actually, I don't know why I thought this related to the game, but I'm doing biggest plot twist of your life stories.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. These stories, of course, come from Reddit, from Monster Goro 87. Had a best friend growing up, from who was also my neighbor. Well, that's bad grammar. Let's try that again with a slight edit. Had a best friend growing up, who was also my neighbor. Siblings always said that I looked like him, and that it would be funny if we did a DNA test. Years go by, and we are both in our late 20s, and he, on a whim, does the Ancestry.com DNA swab. Turns out he matches with my family. He's my half-brother, and Dad had to explain a lot that day. That is strikingly common on those DNA tests, by the way.
Oh, really?
People finding out that their dad's not their dad and stuff like that is a very common one. Okay, from Stu Hardy. Gave up learning German aged 14. I was studying French as well, and used it far more often. I remember saying, when will I need German after this? At 24, I got a job in Austria. The language of Austria is German. 14-year-old me didn't think 10 years ahead.
To be fair, so many people over there speak English. It's probably not that big a deal.
Yeah, I really would like to travel to at least a few European countries and just see, what the language barrier really is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I imagine the signage in countries is going to be in the native language of that country, sure. I would imagine. So that might make it a bit difficult. But also things like Google Translate. I'm sure there's an app that just translates everything as it goes now. So, even if we didn't all speak English, that was arrogant. Not everybody speaks English, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean. You arrogant bastard.
Thank you. From a deleted account. At the DMV, waiting to take my driver's test. Me. Mom, why does my social security card have a different last name on it? Mom. Silence. Me. Mom? Moments later, DMV lady. Why does his social security card have a different last name on it? We can't let him have a permit until you get this fixed. Why is it different? Mom, without ever looking at me, because before today, he didn't know he was adopted. That's People got to have these, like, okay, in this day and age, if somebody is adopted, they are going to find out. They just are at some point. It's like inevitable. You might as well just be open about it.
And if you adopted him, why wouldn't you just change his last name?
Yeah, that's another good question. This whole thing could have been avoided. You would never have had to tell him the truth.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
Well, objective hindsight is 20/20, Ryan. Who knows? Who knows why they kept the name? Okay, from Izzy Epic. Made a slingshot to use at Halloween. Wanted to shoot someone I hated. All us friends gather at park, including the guy I hate. Aim at his face. Guilt overcame me, so I shot the pole next to him. Ricocheted off pole and hit guy I hate in the eye. We don't get to find out the fate of the eye. I think he lost it. That's how I think that story ends. Fan fiction on Reddit stories.
Perfect.
And last but not least, from... Nope, never mind. I have two more. Fancy Shrimp. I recently, 5 months ago, moved out from a friend's house where I lived for almost 3 years. He was arrested 2 weeks ago for possession and distribution of child porn.
Ooh.
That's a pretty heavy twist.
Yeah.
That would shock me. That one was dark. But we'll end on this one from Fetching the Swagney. I used to be a total loser. Now I'm a slightly less total loser with a Rolex. I found it. Just that one.
That's good.
Well, that's our Reddit stories. Now, what we would love is for you to send us your stories. If you are listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, even though there's not much to watch on our YouTube videos, since we're audio only, leave a comment below with your story, question, or comment. Also, subscribe. If you are in a podcast app, go to the description of this episode /show notes /episode notes, all depends which app you're using, and click on the link to this episode on YouTube and leave your story there, or email us, theheatherandryanshow @gmail.com.
Hell
now,
yeah.
Ryan, we have one listener comment.
Ooh.
I will play the short, and then I will read the comment. Here's the short.
If it looks like a Black Widow, I'm freaking out. I was doing some side work for this guy, and I was in his garage. I was moving some stuff around because I was getting ready to, paint his floor, and this spider lands on my arm, and I was getting ready to, flick it, and I looked down, and I saw that hourglass, and I screamed like a little girl and threw my arm, and I sent that spider flying. I have no idea where, but I was looking all over for it to kill it because I did not want to find it again.
We should have grown up in Oklahoma. I tell you what, I remember we were visiting. Our cousin was there with some friends, and we were playing outside. We came to this fence, and there was a gap in the fence, and across the gap was this massive spider web, and smack dab in the middle of it was a Black Widow spider. And they were like, just crawl under. So I was like, okay. So I crawled under. So I'm just saying, grow up where they're everywhere, I guess. Okay, here's the comment from @selfbound FF9 Oi. Yeah, you can find Black Widows in a lot of different states. You can also find false widows and brown recluse in a lot of other states as well. And here's the fun part about spiders. They don't give a fuck about us. 96% of spider species, including tarantulas, want to run from us. The ones that do not run from us are the ones that we F with, the ones that we shouldn't be F with, like wandering spiders and funnel web spiders. Not totally clear what they're trying to say there.
I think what he was saying is that I was acting like a little girl and could have handled that more calmly because the spider probably didn't want to bite me.
There does seem to be a bit of an edge. As we go on, it starts to get a little more personal. Here we go. 90% of the time, it's because we don't know what the F to do when we come across the spider because we are a bunch of F scary B. When it comes to spiders, maybe you should have owned a F jumping spider. You might realize that they're useful and not all of them are creepy. To which I say,
No, thanks.
I do understand that spiders... I almost replied to this, hard pass. But I didn't want to alienate one of the only people that listened to our short. So I just liked the comment and decided to bring it on the podcast.
There you go.
But they are creepy, but they are useful, and I understand. I don't know why they're creepy. And some people are not creeped out by spiders. I know a guy who will handle them with his bare hands, and I have never understood it.
Yeah.
Anyway, because we didn't get a whole lot of listener comments, I thought it would be fun, in the spirit of the game we played and the month that is the month of Halloween in the United States, to talk about a death that actually happened. It is not a stupid death, but it is a very mysterious death. I got all of this from a single Crime Junkie episode. Here we go. Have you heard of Cindy James?
No.
Okay, well, this is going to be wild, so get ready for it. 1989, May 25th, 10 p.m., two friends arrive at 44-year-old Cindy James' house. Cindy is not there. Now, Cindy does live alone, but she rents out the downstairs apartment to a tenant, and he says he hasn't seen her since that afternoon when she left to do some errands. The two friends eventually decide they're going to call the police, and they go home to do so. As they're returning home, they spot Cindy's car in her bank's parking lot. One of her errands from the afternoon was that she was going to deposit a check. There are grocery bags in the car. They go to the police station and get somebody to go and take a look at Cindy's car. An officer goes out, finds the car locked, but under the car, he finds her bank card and a deposit slip, and he finds blood on the driver's side door.
Oh.
So they go all in forensics on this car and the surrounding area. They find nothing, including Cindy. They go back to her house. They find that she had set up the card game, like she was planning to be there and expecting her friends. By now, it's about 3 a.m., and they're making a house call at Cindy's ex-husband's house. They tell him she's missing, and he immediately thinks she must have died, which they find suspicious.
Right.
However, they check him out. His alibi is solid. And they find out that actually he and Cindy got along really well. Like there was no real animosity between them.
Yeah.
So they kind of are like, okay, let's establish her timeline, right? So on the day of her disappearance at 12:33 p.m., there's a Sears receipt. So she bought something at Sears at 12:33, and then at 12:43, another Sears receipt. I'm thinking she bought something, went, oh, I forgot something, and went back in to get it. But that's just me assuming. She gets her makeup done. I guess it's like they used to have these things in malls or stores where you could get your makeup done. They might still have it, but I haven't used it in a while. Like glamour shots, remember those?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was glamour shots, but it's something like that. She went and got her makeup done. Then just before 4 o'clock, she picks up her paycheck from the hospital where she's a nurse, has a coffee with a friend. They make plans to meet later in the week. 7:58 p.m., she must have gone to the bank because that's the time noted on the deposit slip that they found under her car. Now, like 2 weeks go by and they still haven't found Cindy. The family feels like she must have been abducted. The police are kind of like, we don't really think so. They think she's fine and she's going to turn up sooner or later. Now, you might think this is an odd attitude, but just wait for it.
Okay.
We will get there. And in fact, they do find her on June 8th, and she is deceased. She's found lying on her side with her hands tied behind her back. She's barefoot with her ankles tied together. They tied some black pantyhose around her neck. Oh, and her hands have been tied with pantyhose as well. And there's what looks like a small puncture wound on the inside of her right arm. An autopsy reveals that Cindy, contrary to what was assumed when her body was examined at the scene, did not die from strangulation. And in fact, they cannot figure out how she died at all.
Weird.
Then they can't determine an exact time of death either. They think her body was probably there since she went missing. But then why does a guy who lives literally right by the spot where she was found, which is kind of behind this abandoned property, he never notices a smell or anything for 2 weeks, roughly? A toxicology test reveals that she has a lethal mix of 8 different heavy sedatives in her system.
Wow.
But here's the thing, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of her death, Cindy had been making police reports for the last 8 years regarding a stalker.
Oh. And they weren't taking her seriously.
Well, no, they were.
Oh.
Let's get into it here, right? So over the 8 years leading up to her death, she had made routine reports to the police of somebody breaking into her home, cutting her phone lines, smashing light bulbs, slashing things in the house, leaving murdered cats for her to find. That happened on 3 different occasions.
Wow.
A fire was set in her house. She routinely got threatening phone calls and letters, and she was even harassed while she was at work.
Jeez.
She was also physically attacked by an unknown assailant more than once, including one time when responding officers found her with her hands tied behind her back with black nylons, hanging unconscious out of her car with a puncture wound on the inside of her right arm.
Oh, wow.
Cindy reported all of these incidents, and she even took measures like installing an alarm system, hiring a bodyguard / private investigator. She changed her name. She changed her phone number. She moved from where she was living to another town, but all of it just continued to happen to her.
Wow.
Now, for the longest time, police did suspect that her ex-husband was behind it, but he always had super solid alibis. They could never pin it on him.
Right.
They investigated a number of other suspects that didn't pan out. And over the years, police had tried to help her on numerous occasions by setting up hidden cameras to try to catch the guy in the act, right?
Mm-hmm.
They never catch anything when the cameras are up.
Interesting.
In fact, it's after several of these hidden surveillance things, they start to think that it's a bit weird that all of the incidents stop whenever there's a camera and nothing's happening while the cameras are set up. It also never seems to happen when anybody else is around to witness it. Even when people stay at her home overnight, nothing happens. Now, another thing the police did, and I don't know how many times they did this, but they decided, okay, we're going to hide these cameras, and we're not even going to tell Cindy that they're there. She's going to have no knowledge of this. And when they hide the cameras, they find nothing. There's nothing. Because at this point, they're kind of suspecting she might be doing this to herself, and they want to catch her in the act. But nothing on camera. They tap her phone and find out that at least one of the threatening phone calls that she got actually was made from her own home.
Weird.
So this is pretty much the whole story. Like, she might be doing this to herself, and they've never investigated it as a homicide, and it just doesn't add up. So it's like, because she was a nurse, she theoretically had access to these drugs, but it would have been really hard for her to just waltz out with them. I mean, they have security measures and you're not allowed to do that. And she would have had to like slowly steal medication here and there a little bit at a time over like a long period of time.
Right.
It is interesting to me that even when she didn't know surveillance cameras were up, they didn't catch anything, right? If she's doing it to herself and she doesn't know the cameras are up, they would probably catch her, right? Yeah. I find it really weird that that didn't catch her if she did this to herself.
Well, was it happening every single day?
Well, I don't know. I don't think it was happening every single day, but it was happening frequently enough that she was constantly making police reports about it.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm getting at is if it's not like a daily occurrence, right? If it happens, let's say it happens once a month, right? That would be a frequent police report, once a month reporting.
Yeah, that's true.
And you set up surveillance, you have a 1 out of 31 chance of surveilling the right day.
Yeah, and I guess what's missing from the information here is how long did they set that surveillance up for? I was thinking like a few weeks or something.
Right.
What's interesting is at the very beginning, when we find out she had a tenant in the basement of her house.
Oh, yeah.
There's literally zero other information about this person anywhere.
Interesting.
Well, let me rephrase that. In the Crime Junkie episode that I listened to, they mention him at the beginning and they never bring him up again.
He could have been the one making the calls from within the house.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, why is this guy never on anybody's radar as a potential suspect?
Heather, you and I have never taken a criminology class, and we just solved that case.
And I thought it was a mystery. I just thought that kind of, it blew my mind. I would recommend listening to the Crime Junkie episode if that's interesting to anybody. They go into it way more detail than I just did. They cover it for like an hour. It's even more bizarre when you have all the itty-bitty little details in there. I think, Ryan, that we can end on some advice here.
Okay.
Don't be a stalker. And if you're stalking yourself, don't do that either.
And if you see someone scooping up a random slice of tomato, don't assume they're going to put it on your pizza, because they'll probably just put it on their own.
Yeah, that's actually much better advice. Do not just take someone's spilled tomato for yourself. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for clarifying that matter. Okay, in closing, we ask only that if you have been listening to and enjoying this podcast, that you please share it. And also, I'm going to ask for more things. Subscribe wherever you are. Follow, subscribe. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Thank you. Again, it's like pulling teeth to get subscribers for this thing. Ooh, but we got one on X. We got a single follower on X today. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe my eyes. Thank you. I forgot your name already. Hold on. Let's shout out. Let's shout out the person that followed us on X. Pause it hit. Pause it hit. Pause it hit. There are multiple potential pronunciations. You're grimacing at me.
I'm grimacing because my chair has just broken from underneath me and I keep slowly sinking down.
Okay.
And I'm hoping it's not making any noise.
Remember that movie with Rowan Atkinson? What was it? Johnny English. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Oh my God. You're like, okay. Listen, Ryan needs to get out of this chair. His life is in danger. May you have the most incredibly good luck.
Until we play again.
Nailed it.